we are sometimes the negative in the friendship. We're the unhealthy balance, in the friendship. Welcome, my name is Vanessa, and welcome back to Sitting Outside. If you're new to my channel, thank you for tuning in. Feel free to subscribe and also hit the notification bell so you can know when I upload new videos. All right, let's jump right in. So today I wanted to talk about broken friendships. Last upload, I talked about, the importance of friendship and how it's important to have that community of friends and to have people that you're able to find support in. And so this time I want to identify what are broken friendships. That way you can understand what you need to release in your life and then what you also need to invite into your life. And so let's jump into this lovely conversation of broken friendship. So this conversation, it may be a tough one. It may be a tough one. And that's because when you identify what are broken friendships, you oftentimes have to remove yourself from certain people. And those people can be family or they can be friends. And so it can be a hard thing. So I want to say that up front that this may not be an easy conversation. I may touch on some things where you're like, that's me and so. Also too, you're going to have to kind of evaluate and maybe set some boundaries with certain friends because of the unhealthy balance in that. So let's jump right in. So the first type of friends that I want to identify are the gossip friends. Yeah. We all know that person, and hopefully that person is not you. But we all know that person or people who always gossip about others, always are talking about other people's business. And so basically, they don't know how to mind their business. And in minding their business, that's a whole nother topic, but you want to be around people who are self-aware and who is in the process of continuing to work on themselves. And when you find people who are self-aware and they're working on themselves, they don't really have time to talk about other people. Because here's the thing, when people talk about other people in a conversation, especially when those people are not around, they are really trying to put the focus on other people's issues or other people's problems, and they're trying to kind of ignore or bury their own issues. They're not in a place of acceptance of their own issues. And that's why they highlight other people's mess ups or problems and things like that in life. It's easier to focus on other people and what they're doing than to focus on themselves and come to a place of healing. So the next set of friends that I want to identify are the ones who've been loyal. And so even though loyalty is a good thing, I just want to pinpoint, because we get tied up on loyalty. Oh, they've been there since I was, childhood friend, that type of loyalty. Or I've been knowing them for 10 plus years, 20 plus years. They're loyal. They've always been there. Well, they may just be there just because of time itself. And I'll touch on some other things that can be unhealthy in a friendship, but loyalty is not really the best indicator of a good friend. Because I've met people, I would say, it hasn't been a year yet, it's coming to be a year, but they are really loyal. Like when I was going through tough times, when I needed support and things, they were there. They were dependable. They were someone who I could count on. And so time doesn't really mean anything in that regard when it comes to good friendships, good support. You can have someone who's been around for a long time and they've just been operating in this, well, you all been operating in this unhealthy balance, and you can't really get out of that cycle. And so you hold on to it and say, oh, I've known them for a long time. Well, have your friendship evolved since the time you've known that person? because you also too want that, you want your friendships to evolve into better. Any relationship that you're in, you want it to progress. You don't want it to be stagnant. Even your relationship with yourself, you don't want to be stagnant. So I just want to point out that loyalty, it means nothing. Okay, so jumping right into the next set of friends, and that is the dependent friend. The friend that depends on you for everything. And this is going for, I'm really talking about those strong friends, those strong friends. You are the one who have the dependent friends, because they depend on you to give advice. They depend on you to encourage them. They depend on you to support. But it's an unhealthy balance. You're not receiving that from them. And another reason why it's unhealthy is you don't want anyone to depend on you to that degree. You want to be dependable, but you don't want a dependent friend. Like, not to really call them like a child, but you don't want them to need you, because they have their own life. And especially if we're adults, you want to be independent in a way. You don't want to have to depend on something. Oh, well, if such and such is not here on this trip, I'm not going. Or if such and such doesn't come with me to this event, I'm not going. That's not a good life balance, and it would allow you to miss out on life moments and great events, great things in life, because you're dependent on someone else's presence or things that they bring to the relationship. So I definitely want that's a hard one to kind of swallow, especially if you're that dependent friend, because it can be a scary thing to think, I may live life without this person. And so that's a hard thing to imagine. But you want to find that balance where you're not dependent on a person and someone is not depending on you as much. It sounds like a great thing, like, oh yeah, I can do it, I can be a superhero, but it's taken away from your life. It's taken away, because when a person calls you and say, oh, I need you, you have to be there, it takes away of your own experience, because you have someone who is kind of leeching on to you and taking bits and pieces of your time and your moments, because they need you in that way. And so you just want to find that balance. So, okay. And so another type of friendship is, which is a popular word, a popular phrase that we've been saying now, and it is trauma bonding. So, trauma bonding has been this thing. First time I've heard it was Jay Barnett. He mentioned it. Shout out to him. But yeah, trauma bonding is real in a relationship, in a romantic relationship and a friendship. I remember having a friend, a childhood friend, and we were friends for years. And I realized that the foundation of our friendship was based on our problems or the things that we experienced. It had nothing to do with like a healthy balance or anything that was moving in progression in, becoming a healthy friendship. When we got on the phone, we only talked about our problems. When we hooked up, we would, at this time, I no longer drank or anything like that, but when we hooked up, we would go to clubs, we would drink, and it was all fun and games as long as I was in that cycle of basically a broken me. If I was a broken me, then that was rewarding to our friendship. And that's not a good place you want to be. You don't want to bond with someone based upon your trauma. You don't want to say, okay, well, this happened to me, this happened to you, well, let's be friends. Because you'll only be able to connect in that way. And that's something that hopefully you're healing from. And so when you're in a place of that you want to heal from a certain trauma, then that attachment or that trauma bond, it has to be released, because you are now healed from your trauma. And it's a process. So sometimes that's why people say as you grow, some friendships fall off. Well, hopefully, in that growth and you're maturing, you're healing from certain things, and certain friends, they can't relate, or you find that you don't have that much of a connection because you're becoming a healed version of yourself. So yeah, I would have to say no to the trauma bonding. Another one that I want to touch on, and this is obvious, this is something where, has been a topic of friendships or that you don't want, because we all like to believe that we have haters and things like that. So this is the jealous friend. And so we all now in our society, we always try to keep a lookout on who's jealous of us, or who may backstab us in the long run and things like that. But it is a real thing where you can be friends with someone and they can be jealous of you, jealous of your lifestyle, jealous of your spirit, jealous of your healing. And so you want to kind of keep an eye on that. And the reason being, you don't want to be friends with someone who is jealous. And I know it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy. It's like, why would you want to be friends with someone who's jealous? Well, there are people who believe that they could kind of like outlove the jealousy. Oh, well, if I, bury myself, or if I be modest, or, if I don't bring up my accomplishments around this person, then our friendship could work. Well, you're then taken away from yourself. You then begin to not applaud yourself when you do achieve things, or, things that you should celebrate, you can't celebrate with that friend because of their jealousy. And so that's why it's an unhealthy balance there. So yeah, you don't want a jealous friend. And if you are that jealous friend, you want to heal from comparing yourself to others. You don't want to look at your friends or anyone in your life and say, I want that. I want their life. This is what I want. You want to be able to kind of check yourself. So that's one of the things that I've been getting into for the past couple of years, is checking myself. And it's not because I'm jealous or anything else, but this can be for a lot of things within yourself. That's why it's so important to be self-aware. So if there's, if I'm with a friend or a family member or whatever, and something negative comes up, whether if it's jealousy, if it's envy, if it's, maybe you're impatient, or, you just have an attitude, or you're not coming off as your best self, you have to be able to check yourself and say, I'm the negative in this situation and it needs to be balanced out. So let me find some positivity. Let me check myself. Let me figure out why I'm feeling this way, or why, I'm acting this way, and check yourself. And so that's important if you're the jealous friend, is to find out why you're jealous. Have you gone out through life comparing yourself to others? Have you gone through life thinking that you're not worthy? Or, it can be a lot of things, but you definitely want to be able to kind of look inward, and you also want to then set some boundaries with friends until you become healed. And so it's important to heal from those type of feelings. And that's why I want to touch on this topic and talk to everyone, because we are sometimes the negative in the friendship. We're the unhealthy balance, in the friendship. And if we become a better person, or we identify these things within ourselves, then we will then attract good friends to us. And so in saying that, I also want to touch on the fact, this is not a point, but I do want to touch on the fact that it's a saying that I heard years ago, and I want to say one of my ex-boyfriends told me. And but he wasn't the first person to say it, but it was, in order to have good friends, you have to be a good friend. So it was something like that. And that is so true. It's like, whoever you are, you'll attract. And so it definitely came to a point with me where I had to change within myself. And that's how I started attracting good-hearted people, people that valued the same things that I valued. And if I do meet people who, don't value the things that I value, I don't like push them to the side or anything. I set a lot of boundaries with that, and I allow my goodness to influence them in a way to say, hey, we can't be besties. You may be in my presence here and there. I'm not going to, just push you to the side and say, I can't talk to you because you're a bad person. No, it's not that type of way. It's like, I'm going to remain a good person, but the people who deserve my goodness and who is equally as good to me, they're going to be closer to me. All right. And so another thing that is popular in these streets is the word ghosting. I saw on Twitter maybe a couple of weeks ago where they were like, this quote has been going around where they're saying, appreciate those friends I appreciate the friends who understand me when I ghost. I go away for some time and then I come back. I'm gonna have to disagree with that. And that's because it's kind of normalizing isolation. And although we need an isolation season, there are unhealthy ways that you can isolate. And just to touch on a few, if you're depressed, if you're experiencing suicidal ideations of any kind, isolation is not the best thing. Getting away from your friends, that's the last thing you want to do, especially if they're good, supportive friends. Like if this is your support system, you don't want to get away from them when you're depressed. And oftentimes when you are depressed or you're going through the motion of depression, that's how you feel within. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to be, social in this moment. That's a natural response. But I don't want people to think that that's a healthy response, because it's not. It's not. And so for you to desire friends to understand that, hey, when I deal with things or when I'm depressed, when I'm at my lowest, I don't want you there. I can't promote that. I can't promote that, because like I say, that's an unhealthy balance. Another thing I want to touch on with like ghosting your friends is it's unhealthy communication. So if I'm your friend, quote, your friend, and I just stopped responding to your text messages and I stopped calling you for weeks on end, that speaks a lot about our friendship. First off, it says that I don't trust you with whatever I'm going through. And then it also say that you're not that important to even know what I'm going through. And this is all an assumption of that phrase, like I said, that's on social media of, I appreciate my friends when I, ghost for a couple of weeks or whatever and come back. Because with just saying that phrase, it's saying that I don't have to communicate. I don't have to, be a mature adult and express the reasons why I'm no longer in communication with them for a couple of weeks, or, it gives off unhealthy balance. it gives that off, because let me tell you, with my friends, there are times where I don't want to talk, or I need to be, because I'm an introvert. So there are times where I go out with my friends, or the next weekend I'm like, nah, girl, I gotta chill. And they understand that. But I tell them that. Or if I'm off of social media, because a lot of my friends like send like reels and things like that to my DM, I would tell them, hey, I'm off of social media for a couple of weeks. So if you message me, I'm not going to be there. You want to be able to communicate with the people that you care about. You don't want to just ghost them and say, oh, well, they know me, I'll be back around. It's really given inconsiderate. It's really given that. And so I definitely wanted to touch on that. I think that's all of my points. I think I talked enough on this video. So I'm gonna wrap it up. But yes, like I said, let's find some supportive friends. Let's have good friendships, balanced friendships, healed friendships. And I know healing is a journey, so we're not all gonna be there. But if you have a set of friends who are reaching to their best potential, then they're good people. They're good friends. If they're able to take accountability for their wrong, if they're able to communicate with you, to set boundaries with you as well, and say, you know, because we all need boundaries. It's not a negative thing. Oh, she doesn't want me to call her. No, I have a friend who has a do not disturb after 9 p.m. And guess what I don't do? We've talked after 9 p.m. before, but I don't call her after 9 just out of respect, because she put that in place for a reason. And so I respect her. Maybe that's her downtime, maybe that's her prayer time, I don't know. But because she said that, I'm aware of that and I respect that. So yeah, so let's get into some healthy relationships. You will become a better person when you have good friends around you, and they will become a better person because you're intentional about having positivity around you. So it's like a circle, it's a cycle of things. But like I said, all right, so yeah, so subscribe to my channel. You can always comment below. Make sure you keep it respectful. Share your friends' experience. Share maybe past broken friendships that you have overcome, or you know, now moving on from. And like I said, this discussion is very hard to have, but that's the point of sitting outside. And so I just had to bring it to you just like that. All right, have a good one. Talk with you later.